Welcome to Relentless Pursuit with Marjorie Dudley. Real conversations with entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders who refuse to settle. This isn't about overnight success. It's about the decisions, discipline, setbacks, and standards that shape extraordinary results. If you're building something that matters, you're in the right place.
Hello and welcome to Relentless Pursuit with Marjorie Dudley. Today I'm excited to have Rachel Carter here with us. She is a wife, a mother, a travel enthusiast, and an author of an incredible book called Enduring the Cure. Rachel, welcome to Relentless Pursuit.
Thank you, Marjorie. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I personally love your book and love the cover art as well. I know that shout out to your mom, who's an incredible artist. There it is. Yes. And tell us a little bit about that story and how it came to be.
Well, it's about my journey having multiple sclerosis and how I went downhill really fast. And then I found out about a way to stop the progression, an HSCT,
Mm.
hematopoietic,
We'll look that
hemato,
up. It's a
hematopoietic
lot of
stem
words.
cell research. So then I did that and it stopped all further progression. And here I am today. I went from not being able to walk to running again. So.
Wow. Now, multiple sclerosis is something people have heard of MS, but I'm guessing until I really got to know you, I didn't know much about it. Tell us a little bit about MS and the challenges that it creates for people who are living with the disease.
Okay, so it's an autoimmune disease that it really attacks your brain and your spine. So it eats away the myelin. So if you imagine your brain, you have neurons, and it has to get from one point to another, and that's sent by an electrical signal. So imagine it's like a lamp cord, and it's covered in plastic, so it can get all the way there and not get lost. So with MS, it makes your auto or your immune system attack the myelin sheathing, so that
The plastic, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, so that it can no longer the signal can't get to where it's going. So the signal will fire and go somewhere else. So that way, when that happens, like if it's the signal going to tell your hand what to do, your hand no longer knows what to do, so it doesn't do anything.
Wow. And if I recall, tell us a little bit more, but it's incredibly painful in the later stages. Is that correct?
That is correct. Not for everybody, but for some people. And I guess what happens is the electrical signal that doesn't go where it's told to, it just gets interpreted as pain. So you can have pain anywhere. I had a lot of it in my bones and in my on my skin. It burned really bad.
Like feeling like your skin was quite literally burning, but it was just
Yeah.
a essentially a mixed signal.
Yes.
Wow. Which if I recall too, I remember you sharing a lot about your journey and saying that pain medication wouldn't even cut it because because it's a mixed signal, there's nothing to really address. Talk a little bit about some of the worst days, what you were experiencing from a pain standpoint, from a symptom standpoint that maybe people don't really understand if they haven't met someone.
Okay, so the pain started out feeling like a bad sunburn on my back, and I was really confused on why, because I hadn't been in the sun or had anything happen to my
This
back.
was
So I
about how
had,
long ago?
this was about 14 years ago.
Okay. So bad sunburn was kind of the first thing you noticed.
Uh-huh, and I had a friend look at my back to tell me what was going on. She's like, there's nothing there. So I'm like, oh, well, this must be a mess. So, but it progressed to the point where it felt like a vat of boiling oil was being poured down my back. And the pain would be so horrific. Some days I couldn't get out of bed at all, couldn't think, couldn't do anything.
How
And
quickly was how quickly was that progression from it's a tolerable but bad sunburn to
hmm
vat of boiling hot oil and you just can't move? What was
it took only a couple of weeks. But as far as
Wow.
my physical disability, I went from running marathons to not being able to cross a room in the span of 2 years.
In 2 years.
So,
So let's actually walk all the way back to the beginning, and we'll kind of bring it forward then.
okay.
When did you first know something was up? How old were
So
you? Where were
back,
you? Tell us. Yeah.
it was the year 2000, and I was 24 years old, and I kind of lost my vision for the most part. There were little holes I could see, but for the most part, it was just dark, and I couldn't interpret my surroundings. And I went to the ER, and they told me I had just discovered some new illness. So good for me, a new virus or something. They had no
Yay.
idea. I know. I'm like,
Congratulations.
yay. So, but we had no idea what that was about, and then it went away after a couple weeks. So just moved on like nothing had happened. And then
So basically
I,
no real diagnosis, no real treatment at that point. Just okay, your vision's back. You must have something weird. Congratulations, good luck. Is that kind of
yeah, that was basically it.
And that was
So
how long ago again?
that was in the year 1999,
19. Okay. So you're still young. You're what, 20 something,
24.
24. So young, active, like, and lose your
Yeah, like
vision. Crazy.
nothing was wrong with me at all. Like there was no explanation for any of it. And I was a very healthy young person. So it was just bizarre. But then after it went away, I didn't really think much more of it. It's just something bizarre that happened to me. And then I got really depressed, and which is also a sign of multiple sclerosis. Most people don't know that,
Interesting.
but it was caused by it because it messes with your brain chemistry, you know?
Hmm.
So,
What were some of the things you were experiencing? And did the depression come on like that, or was it gradual? And what did you notice and feel and experience?
no, it came on really quickly, and I it was the kind of depression where you just don't want to leave your apartment. So I stayed in my
Mm.
apartment. I didn't go to my school classes. I was in college at the time. So I didn't go to any of my classes and I didn't leave my apartment. And I just,
Which Rachel is like the most social person ever. So to hear her not wanting to be social is and at that point you had been quite literally a world traveler, right? You had
yes.
traveled extensively. Um, what are some of the places you'd been to in and around that time or leading up to that time?
So in my early 20s, or I guess early 20s, meaning I was 19 turning 20, I
Hmm.
traveled throughout Europe by myself. I just backpacked throughout all of Western Europe and went down to Greece, went to all the different countries in Western Europe. So I had
So
traveled a
very
lot through
outgoing, very
there.
social,
Yes,
very like wanting to explore. So this depression comes on quickly. You don't want to leave, and then Uh, how long did that seem to last, and what else did you notice besides that?
it lasted a couple months, I think, and then I wasn't totally out of it, but I realized that this was not normal. So I
Hmm.
went to the counselor at the college, and she said, first of all, to take care of my school problems, that I needed to ask for an incomplete in my courses, so I didn't get straight Fs because there was no way I could finish them at this point. I hadn't gone in a while.
You were
And
basically not going to classes, not leaving your apartment.
yeah, not doing
Wow.
anything really, just sitting around hating myself, basically. Um,
Hmm.
and then, so after I realized like it wasn't normal, something was wrong, and I really had to fix this, I decided to move to Arizona because it's sunny there, which seems silly and ridiculous at this point. But at the time, I thought it was my way out. Like it seemed like such a great idea. So
Because
I
you were in
packed up.
Oregon, right?
Yeah, I was in Oregon.
Yeah.
So I
Which
packed up
is,
and moved
I
to
mean, let's be
Arizona.
honest. Like Oregon, there is a little bit extra depression and gloomy, rainy 9 months
Yes,
of the year. Oregon, so
always.
that's not so far fetched. Actually, it's honestly quite brave and quite smart that your initial response was, what can I do to sort of shake this loose?
Yeah,
I need more sunshine. I mean, I give you a lot of props for that because when you're feeling like that, I can't imagine a big move feels great, but what you saw was this might be something that helps me feel great, and so it'll be worth it. So
Yeah,
again, props for taking action in any way that you could. So did you go through with
thank
the
you.
move to Arizona?
I did go through with the move. And the same time I
Okay.
first went to the counselor to address my school career and what it was going on, I also started on antidepressants, and they worked pretty quickly within a couple weeks. So then I'm okay. I'm moving to Arizona, trying to fix everything.
Hmm.
And then I get to Arizona, and life is going great. It's sunny and beautiful, and I loved it there. And I stopped being able to use my right arm at all. And
Wait, hang
one
on. What do you
day,
mean stopped being able to, like, what?
it
That's
was like a dead
wow.
limb. It wouldn't do anything I told it to.
Just like you wake up one day and it doesn't.
No, I woke up one day and everything felt weird, and I couldn't explain how weird it was. Just I, I mean, later I will learn to describe it as I felt everything. I felt my skin. I felt my bones. I just felt everything, and you don't normally feel your skin. You don't feel your arm
Interesting.
sitting there, and I felt everything, and then within a couple of days, it progressed to not feeling anything at all and not being able to use my arm. Like I would tell it to pick something up and it just wouldn't move. It was just like a dead limb.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling in that? I mean, I have to imagine that maybe you're scared or
I was frightened. I didn't know what to do. So I called my mom. And of course, mom will fix everything, right? So I called my mom and told her what was going on. And I told her that I had been to the ER and they sent me to a regular doctor to figure it out because they couldn't help me. And anyways, that doctor told me I had to go to a neurologist, but he wouldn't do it as an emergency referral, so I couldn't get in for like 6 months. So I called my
oh
mom
shit.
telling her all this, and I'm like, I can't do anything. I can't lift the phone book to figure out how to call these numbers. And I'm like, I wouldn't ask for help, you know me, but I really think I need it. Like, I'm scared and I don't know what to do. And mom said, don't worry, I've already booked a flight out and I'll be there in the morning. So she
Let's
shows up
just
in the
pause for a
morning.
second. God love moms. Because my mom did
Yes.
something very similar for me when I had I had a massive blood clot that went from my knee to my uterus when I was pregnant with
Hmm.
York, and it was so painful, and I was scared, and my mom's like, "Do you want me to come out?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to, be a burden." And then the next text I got, she's like, "I'll be there Thursday,"
Yeah.
and your mom did absolutely, like, God love mom. Shout out to all the moms who
Yes.
can just drop
Drop
everything
everything.
and be there for their kids. So okay, so mom comes out, and then what happens?
The first thing she did was feed me because I hadn't been able to feed myself or eat for a
Mm.
while. I mean, I had been sustaining somehow, but it seemed
Yeah.
like at least
But if
24
you
hours
got a
since
dead
I'd
limb, you're
eaten.
not cooking, you're not,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. So she made me some eggs and fed me, and then she called the regular doctor that had told me to start calling this list, and she's like, what is going on? Like, my daughter is clearly not okay, and you needed to put this as an emergency referral. And she got nowhere with them, so she started calling numbers on the list. They gave me a thick list of neurologists and all the
So she's
neurologists in the
advocating.
area.
Sh
Yes.
she is fight and us with York and you with obviously your things. We've had to navigate a lot in the medical system. Like the one piece of advice that I can give, because it's messy, it's problematic, it's broken. I think in some ways it's set up to kind of squeeze you out a little bit or frustrate you, and you have to advocate for yourself or for your loved one. You have to fight. Don't just let people tell you what is and is impossible. And I'm not trying to
Yeah.
cause problems for the administrative folks. I'm not trying to cause problems for the doctors, but at the same time, it's like if we had just taken everything that they had said was the way it is with York, he wouldn't be doing half as well as he is. And obviously
Yeah.
the same thing with your situation. So mama gets on the phone, she's calling, she's
Yeah.
advocating. Then what happens?
So she eventually decides to go personal. So she called this the next line or number she called was she got a woman that answered the phone and she basically said, "Do you have kids? Like this is what's going on with my daughter. What would you do?" And she's like, "Okay, so what you need to do is go to the Scottsdale ER and just refuse to leave until they give her an MRI." So I suspect this person she talked to had some idea that it was MS. And so then we did that. We went to the ER, and I remember we got there, and I just laid down on a gurney because I didn't have the energy to even sit up in a chair.
And you're only
So
what,
we,
25 at this point? 20,
24.
24. So too
Yeah.
young to be that mysteriously ill and weak.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yes. So that went on for a few hours before they got me back to a room, and then another couple hours before they took me in for an MRI. I got the MRI, and then we got sent back to the room, and at least we had a room at this point. And then
Yeah.
it took a
Small
few
blessings.
hours. Yeah, and finally, my mom's out in the hall. She's like, "Somebody has to tell us what's going on." And a nurse came in and she said, "So a neurologist, an oncon neurologist, is coming in to see her. The nurse that should have told you left. They were too chicken shit to tell you
Oh,
there was
jeez.
something really wrong, and they went home. So I'm sorry about that, but the neurologist will be in shortly." I still had no idea what was going on, but if a neurologist has to come in, it must be bad, right? And so he
Yeah.
comes in and he was he wasn't necessarily kind, but he wasn't cruel about it. He wasn't like just flat. He's just like, "Okay, so you have something called multiple sclerosis." And I have never heard of this, but just
Mm-hmm.
the words sounded really dangerous and like a really
Yeah.
big thing. So wrapping my mind around that for the next few weeks even was just, I couldn't believe that something was wrong with me. Like I could do anything. I had done a ton of things in my life. I
Did you know at this point it was like chronic permanent or yeah.
Yeah, he explained the basics to me, and he's like, "It's not a lifelong, it's not a death sentence, but it is a lifelong journey you're going to go through." He goes, "Some people end up just fine, and some people end up disabled. Like there's no way to know what's going to happen." I'm like, "Oh, great! Like I love
Yeah.
that."
We love uncertainty, right? I
Yes.
mean, let's be honest, nothing about life is certain, but when you're dealing with medical diagnoses, the uncertainty is really frustrating because
Yes.
it's hard to tell which way to go or what to do or
Right. There's nothing to do really. So I started on disease modifying drugs right away because I've been
Mhm.
having these episodes every 3 months or so, which is a lot.
What
So
kind
and
of episodes was that? The dead arm or was it something else every 3 months?
yeah, the vision, the depression, the dead arm, and then there's a point where I lost all like the feeling of where I was. I was dizzy and I had no like I couldn't tell perspective, like where things were around me, sort of
Oh, like
thing.
disoriented or like vertigo?
Yeah, both of
Yeah.
those. So
Jeez.
this sort of thing was happening to me every 3 months, and
And how long would
so
it
they knew
last? Just
a couple to a few weeks.
okay. So you're
So it
basically
just
like
depended.
2 to 4 weeks on and 2 months off, and then another like just the
Yeah.
cycle. How's that feeling knowing? Like, what are you thinking in that time after you've maybe had a few 3 month cycles of this? Of it gets real bad for a few weeks, and then I mean, are you optimistic because you know you've tended to come out of it? Or are you like really anxious because you know another one is coming? Like, what can you remember some of the thoughts and feelings you had back then?
Yeah, a lot of things in my life, I look back and I think I was completely crazy and don't know how this happened, but I had not put the things together. I had not put
Yeah.
it together that these things were happening and it was all neurological. And so
Okay.
I just wrote them all off. After they were gone, I'm like, "Oh, life is good again." but my
So
parents
it's
had
it's
put it
hindsight
together.
that you saw 3 months, and it wasn't quite
Yes,
in real time that you were noticing. Okay,
right.
yeah,
So, but once it all got put together, my parents knew before we got the diagnosis that
okay,
I had MS.
got it.
So, yeah.
So
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 it
you're
was
getting this
scary.
cycle of like every few. You're still in Arizona. Every few months, you're dealing with another bout of like, for lack of a better word, maybe a flare up. And do you feel pretty normal and like your normal Rachel self when it's not flaring up? Like, are you able to get?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because when it flares up, what happens is the myelin is being attacked in that spot in your brain, right?
got it.
So you stop being able to use that part, or whatever happens, happens. And then your brain, we all know your brain can fix itself in some ways. So your brain goes back to normal and that little spot gets rerouted. So at this point, like here today, I have 56 spots where the demyelination has happened and three black holes, which is where the disease attacks that one spot so many times that the brain matter is completely gone. So we know that the
Wow.
demyelinization can be rerouted, but when the spot is completely gone, there's nothing that they found can do to help that at all.
So the black holes are places where, I mean, would they say there's literally no brain tissue there? Like it's
Yes,
been kind of
yes,
eaten or
it is
necrotized
literally
or
a hole in your brain.
a hole in your, wow. And so you have three of those, which I'm assuming are bigger, and then you have 56 sort of rerouting. This highway's closed. Take a
Yeah,
detour. Okay,
exactly.
and we're gonna come back to that for sure. So I want to. How many years are you living with just kind of the every couple months cycles, and is there anything you can do about that? Is there anything you try?
Well,
What is life like?
when I started on the drugs for MS, it got a lot less, and it only happened every
Okay.
couple of years. And I went on like that for a good 14 years or 12 years because it started going bad in 2012, and then it was 2014 that I was completely disabled.
So
And
2012, you're living where? Are you still in Arizona or did you come back to Oregon?
I came back to Oregon right after I got diagnosed. I'm like, this is not
Okay.
something I can deal with on my own.
Right, right,
So I
right.
couldn't be
Okay.
that far away from my parents and family and everything because all my family is in Oregon.
Yep. So you're in
So,
Oregon, the drugs are helping
uh-huh.
you kind of keep it at bay, so it doesn't
Hmm.
get bad but every couple years. And then 2012, what happens then?
So I had run a couple marathons and I was running on, we were in Hawaii at the time and I was running along this path that had stalagmites sticking up, like where something had grown underneath the pavement. So it was sticking up and I tripped on one and landed on my knee. And that was when I first, that will no big deal. But my husband thought, okay, she shouldn't be tripping. Like she sees it, she shouldn't be tripping. And so I continued running. But then I noticed on the path by my house back in Oregon that I was tripping on nothing. And
Hmm.
so that's when it started.
So you
And
had a
then,
large kind of normal season and then you decide to take up running, which I just think is absolutely incredible, and train for marathons and start doing a lot of running, which
mm,
becomes your happy place. But then you have a tripping incident in Hawaii, and then you notice more tripping incidents, but without anything to
to trip
credit them
over.
to, yeah, and
Yes.
then that raises some new red flags.
Yeah. So I started running on a treadmill only. And then it got harder and harder. And I started going downhill like really fast downhill. And so it turns out, even though I thought that disease modifying drugs were helping the disease, it was still all building up in my head. I just had an incompetent
So
doctor
they were
that was
helping the
telling me,
symptoms, maybe not the actual disease progression.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. And sometimes I would notice something would happen, like I would get shocks going up and down my spine for no reason, just shocks over and over. And my doctor would say, because I was working out for an hour in the morning and then running on my lunch break, and I was staying really strong to try to combat the
Mhm.
disease, and I thought it was working, and then the doctor would always tell me, "Well, you're too strong to be having a flare up," and I
Mm.
was like,
Like in a
"Well,
dismissive way or like
yeah,
in an okay.
totally." So I just went on thinking
Like someone is
everything was
having a flare up,
fine.
they wouldn't be able to run. They wouldn't be able to
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So that that then at that point, when I was going downhill really fast and he had no explanation for it, he said that I needed to go see a specialist. Which all this while I thought he was a specialist, but it turns out he was a stroke specialist and not an MS specialist. So
Gross. Well, and you have kids at this point, right? So
yeah,
you
three
have
kids.
uh, uh but at this point you just had the two, right?
No, I had all three.
You had all
My
three. Okay,
youngest
sorry.
had just been born.
Okay. That's what timelines, timelines. Okay, so you'd
Yeah,
had
it's
all three
hard.
kids in this time and you'd had healthy, normal pregnancies. You're
Hmm.
running, it's your happy place, you're exercising. Your doctor, not a specialist, says, well, you couldn't possibly be having flare ups because you're too like you're able to run. My
Strong.
people who have flare ups, they
Yeah.
can't run. They can't. And so a little bit dismissive, but recommends you to a specialist. And this is still about 2012 ish.
Yeah.
What kind of specialist do you see, and what do you learn from that?
I see an MS specialist at OHSU, and she was the head of their neurology department and had an MS clinic. And she finally, she's like, "Well, how long since you've had an MRI?" Which I should have been getting them done every year, but it had been a few years. And
So
so
anybody
she gave me,
listening, if you have a loved one with MS, advocate, advocate, advocate for more
yes,
frequent MRIs than every 12 years.
yeah. Which for people who don't know what that is the magnetic tube they put you
Is
in
it the
that,
tunnel? It's the tunnel.
yeah, it's a tunnel and it can take like images of slices of your brain so they can see the whole brain, really what it
Yeah.
is. And that's when she said how much damage I had in my brain. And I was like, I couldn't believe that I could even look at the scan because there are so many white holes and which are where it's been
Wow.
damaged and then the
The white
black
holes are the
holes.
black holes because that's how they show up on
Yeah.
the. And I mean,
Yeah.
to some extent, like again, you were taking such good care of yourself, and maybe to that other doctor's point, he didn't see as often the decline. Like, I get it; it sucks to be dismissed, but you had been taking such good care of your health, and so the things going on behind the scenes didn't weren't as obvious until they
Yes.
were. They weren't as obvious
Yes.
until they were.
Exactly. And then that's the point where the pain really started, and that was the most disabling. Not that I didn't have the energy to walk across the room, but the pain. I couldn't get out of bed. And looking back again, I was crazy. I was still trying to work every day. So I'd go into work, and then after a couple hours, I'd have to leave and come home. And,
Right.
God bless my employers. The fact that they let me stay on was
Yeah.
amazing.
They were very gracious, but you were also showing up, cuz you love doing your best. You love being challenged.
Yes.
You loved I mean, and you even I remember a story from back then. You ran a marathon or half marathon with one of your clients in that
Mm-hmm.
season or in and around that season.
Mm-hmm.
So it started getting worse, and what was happening? What were some was it the boiling oil feeling again? Was it something else?
Now the boiling oil feeling was the worst. That was the worst. And I guess in the mornings it was better. And it wouldn't be boiling oil yet. It would just be hot water.
Just hot oil.
So,
Just
yeah.
yeah.
Just hot, not boiling.
So,
So,
what was sort of the final straw that led to you having to no longer work? Where did you finally go like this is untenable, this is not sustainable?
mhm. It was a pain. It was a pain. And I was using a walker at this point because I just didn't have the energy to go across a
At what,
room.
35 or something?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, so it was scary, and I
Jeez.
didn't see an end to it. Like, because I wasn't having an exacerbation or a flare up at the time, there was no way it was going to just stop and end. So I'm figuring
Which
this
is
is my life.
chronic.
Yeah. So I was trying to figure out how to take my own life without affecting my kids, which of course is impossible, which is why I
Impossible.
didn't. So I heard about HSCT or hematopoietic stem cell transplant. Um, and I looked into it. At first, I'm like, "Oh, you're crazy. There is no cure for MS. There is no way to stop it."
Which is
And
what
I,
we've been told.
yes, and what we're still told.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard about that and I looked into it. And after a day of researching it, my husband and I were both like, okay, we're doing this. What you have to do. Even though it is really hard on your body, it kills your body basically before it brings
Where
it
did you
back.
find it? Like, give people, because maybe they don't have MS and this is not the exact
Hmm.
treatment, but like, because we did something kind of similar with York where we did a lot of like our own research and led to some things that we would have
Hmm.
never, So, what did you do specifically to then come across this? And then,
Well, my husband and my dad had been tirelessly researching this and what to do and come up with nothing. And I heard about this from somebody at my daughter's school. I was picking up my daughter from school, which how
right.
I could drive, I don't know. But I
Good
picked up my
days, bad
daughter from
days.
school.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
And
bad days,
somebody,
worse days.
yes, yes. So another mom at the school had MS and she told me that she was going to do this. And I said, "Oh, I'm
Really?
so sorry, but there is no cure for MS. Like, I'm so sorry, honey." Like, really kind of putting her down. Like, but there is no way out. Like, and she's like, "No, look it up. It's called HSCT." And so I got on, it was the Facebook pages that had all the information on it. So I got onto the Facebook and started researching this. And that's when my husband and I were like, okay, we're in. And then, because there is even a chance of death, a very small chance, but there is a chance. So it's
Yeah.
not a light decision we made, but I was headed there anyways. Like my whole body was shutting down. So who knows when my
You
heart would
you
shut
were
down
out
or
of
whatever.
options, so
Yes,
yeah. Well, and I
exactly.
just want to rant for one hot second because I've seen not all doctors do this. So if you are not one of the doctors who does this, God bless you. But I have seen, and I actually had a doctor who went off on me because she went to X number of years of medical school, and I shouldn't be confusing my Google degree with blah blah blah. And there are countless incidents because I only cared about me and my son in that instance. You and your dad and your husband, you are 100% the focus. The doctor has thousands of patients. They can't know everything. This is not a put down not necessarily
Yes.
on all doctors, but to patronize patients by saying like you couldn't possibly know anything from Google is just, I mean, and I know that there's people that have been in doctors' offices when the doctor actually goes to Google. There are
Hmm.
PubMed studies, there are journals, like we have access to all that. Now, I'm not discrediting their years of education, but again, you have to advocate for yourself. And it was almost my full-time job, as it sounds like it was your husband's and dad's full-time job to find anything to help
Yes.
the person that we love. And so, ooh, that's a thing. Like I will never work with a doctor who has that mindset of don't confuse your Google degree. It's like, no, we're a partnership and
Yeah.
so rant over. Thank you for that. But awesome that your husband and your dad were doing their research into this, into other things. And again, just like the little God blessing of the mom from your daughter's school, like what are those odds?
Yeah, I know. They're impossible. But
It's
I
crazy.
attribute it to God. Like it was a Christian school
Absolutely.
that she randomly ran into, or we randomly got her into the school, and then this. So,
Yes. So then,
yeah.
so you hear about this, they look into it. Yes, there's a chance of death, but at the rate you're going, and honestly having, probably thinking about, you know, ending it because of the degree of pain you're in. And thank God you
Hmm.
didn't. And I hope
Yes.
all people who are struggling with that degree of pain, like, keep keep fighting. I mean, I know that's easy to say on this side, but
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that you didn't make that decision, and I obviously know your kids and all the people who love you. So yes, keep fighting. So then
So then I bring
you
it to
you
my
learn about this.
neurologist. I take it to a
Okay.
specialist, and she hadn't heard of it yet. Like it was so unknown at
Again.
the time,
Yeah.
and I heard about it, and so she gets on her computer very quickly, comes back with, yeah, they're doing this for MS.
Google.
And well, I think it was her computer system, her
I,
hospital computer system, but
sure, sure.
yeah. Anyways, so she came back and she's like, okay, they are doing it for MS, and yes, this is something you should pursue. So I went to my regular
So
doctor
she was
and told,
supportive. That's awesome.
oh yeah, yeah, and told him I was going to do it, and he's like, no, no, it's too dangerous. You should not do that. And I said, okay, just be
Okay.
clear. I'm not asking your permission. I'm telling you I'm doing this, just hoping you'll provide the aftercare. And he goes, okay, well, if this is something that you have to do, then I will support
That's
you
an
with the
interesting
aftercare.
switch too. Like it's almost there's that risk aversion of like there's that risk aversion of and I think it's good. Like we had a similar risk aversion when I wanted to bring York home from the NICU, and they're like, well, he still needs all these things. And I was like, no, no, no. I need to bring him home. What do I need to learn or do to do that? Like, surely
Right.
kids have come home this small on feeding tubes with these care needs. Like, what needs to happen? Like, it's like a different framing of the question. Like, oh, when is York going to be able to come home? And they, no, it's
Yeah.
too dangerous. But no, no, no. I need to bring him home. What needs to happen? And then the same thing kind of with you of like, no, I'm going to do this. How
Hmm.
can or will you support, help, guide,
Yeah.
knowing that? Like it's again a different framework. Okay,
Yeah.
so
And
at
I
this
remember
point though,
when you
you'd
guys
had
took
some
York, I
yeah,
remember
go
when
on.
you guys took York home, it was not advised. And you guys just basically said, no, we're taking him home. This is
Yeah,
where he will recover best. And you did.
yep.
And
And
look
he
at him
did.
now.
And he did. Right?
Yes.
So you're with the getting getting access to this treatment, the
Hmm.
cost of this treatment, the accessibility of because it's still widely unknown. So that means it's not like it's in every hospital in the country, right?
No.
How do you go about finding a place, like dealing with insurance? Like what kind of fight were you up against then to make this happen?
So back then, because it was so experimental, no insurance would cover it. And there are like a few spots around the world that do it. There was two in the United States, and one I got rejected from because I was too far along, they thought.
Mm.
So it wouldn't be
So two
successful. So
places
they
in the
didn't,
US.
that were just doing studies. So you had to be admitted into the study to get it done. But
Okay.
now there are like, I don't know, like 20 places in the US that are involved in this study called BMS, BANTMS. And if you look that up online, you'll see several spots that are doing it. And they'll even take you, if you don't get accepted into the study, they'll let you do it on your own. But it's still
Wow.
too costly for most people to be able to
Yeah.
do it. It costs about 500 grand. And at the time, that's what it was going to cost me to go up to Seattle and get it done. And my husband fought and fought and fought. And finally, the insurance called and said, so we want Rachel to have this done in the US because I was going to have to go outside the US to get it done just because of the cost. Because they would do it for 80
Where
grand
were you
instead of
looking?
500 grand. Italy.
And
So
it
I
was
was
how
all
much?
set to go to Italy. It was only 80 grand.
Only.
Only, I know, it's
Yeah.
still ridiculous for most of the population,
Yeah.
but it was something we thought we could do with loans and my
Yeah.
parents' help and
Yeah.
without bankrupting them.
Well, and you're
So,
desperate to get out of this
yes, I mean, it was a life
place,
and death situation. So,
So you get the
I,
good news from the insurance that they will cover
hmm
it. That's a rare blessing, but again, because of the advocating and
yes,
fighting and all
nonstop
that. And
pursuit.
living in Oregon, roughly what part of Oregon
We
and
were
how
in the Portland area, so very north,
Seattle's
a
3-ish
couple
hours away.
hours. Yeah, three
Yeah.
hours.
So is there do you get it scheduled then, or how does that work?
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, which we all know memories are fallible, so
Right.
but I remember getting the call like 1 week before I left for Italy. So we rerouted the whole thing and I went up to
Wow.
Seattle a week later. I got admitted like right away when I called them. I'm like, I can do it there. I'd already done all the pre-work to all the pre-testing and everything to go in. So there's like, okay, come on up. So then I just went up to Seattle and had the procedure done.
Wow. And take us through the logistics of that, because at this point your 3 kids are how old?
9 and 6 and 3.
9, 6, and 3.
Yes.
And you hadn't been working because of the pain, but obviously your husband is working full time and
Yes.
probably needs to continue to do
Yeah.
so. And then you're going to be in Seattle. What are they saying the duration is that you're going to need to be in Seattle?
3 to 6 months.
3 to 6 months. So what goes through your mind then, if anything? Because maybe you're so just, you're so the pain is just so
hmm
grating. Maybe it's blocking everything out. But what do you remember about like logistics of that season and thinking about like what are we going to do with the kids and
Yeah. No, I remember. You're right. I was not thinking ahead. I was letting everybody else plan everything for me at this
Mhm.
point. But I remember my husband was struggling with how am I going to take care of the kids and work full time and go up
Yeah,
to Seattle and see Rachel and help take care of her. And my parents, like I said, my parents were 100% on board, like whatever they had to do to help with this. So they, being retired, agreed to take in my kids. They took 2 of my kids in, and a third one went to Josh's sister who had kids her age in school. So that was going to help her out. And my
okay.
other 2 kids were not in school yet. And
So God bless family too for I know not
yeah,
everybody has that, but that's such a, beautiful thing when family can rally and pitch in to just be there for each other. What a beautiful
absolutely.
thing. And your parents have obviously
Absolutely.
been amazing this entire time and
Yes.
so for the kids are going to be essentially with family for that entire duration. Was that the plan?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Josh would see them every other weekend, and then every other weekend, or maybe even every weekend. I don't know. It's so hard to remember this time. He
Yeah.
came up to
But then
Seattle
also
and
go up to
took over
Seattle
my
to see you. So
caretaking.
he's
Yeah. And my parents
so they
went
were
back
very
and
well
forth.
loved, well cared for then,
Yes.
but also, let's be honest, not being with mom for 3 to 6 months, and certainly military families with deployments deal with this, but
hmm
that's definitely a challenge. Um, have you ever do they remember that season? Like, do they now remember what that was like, and what are their thoughts on that whole experience?
Um, my daughter remembers it, but she didn't know the extent. And
Your
she
oldest or
recently,
youngest?
oldest,
Oldest,
she
okay.
recently read my book and she's like, yeah, I didn't know all of this. And
Yeah.
and
Which as
then
parents, right, we want to shield our kids from
Yeah.
You know, you're
Yeah. I
not
didn't want them to
like
know what was happening.
you're putting on a brave face,
Mm-hmm.
not
Yeah.
necessarily talking about how dire things are. Like
Yeah.
that's what we do as
They obviously knew
parents.
I wasn't doing well, but I did not share details with them. And my
Yeah.
youngest doesn't really remember it, my youngest daughter, because she was only 3, and I think she turned 4 during that time. She
Hmm.
doesn't really remember it, but she remembers that it affected her afterwards. Like
Hmm.
she noticed a little bit of distance, and she was very glad when I came home, but she was confused about the whole thing, obviously. She didn't know
Yeah.
why I had to leave, and then
Yep.
my
Didn't
son,
understand it.
yeah, my son is the middle child, and he was only 6, and he doesn't remember a lot of it, but he didn't seem to be, he's a boy. He didn't think too much about it.
Not
So,
to stereotype, but
right.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you're up there and what is the treatment like? So what is that treatment actually? Kind of describe what you went through.
Okay, it's hell. It was the closest to dying. They say that childbirth is the closest to death you can get. I think this was
Okay.
because what they
I'll
do
take your word
is,
for it since you've done both.
yeah. So what they do is first they gave me a mild form of chemotherapy to reproduce stem cells in my bones. And then once you have enough
Mhm.
stem cells running through your system, they take all those stem cells and they put them in a an anti, what's it called when you store something? Something to store
We'll
it
look
so
the
it doesn't get sick.
okay.
Yeah. And
Like cryo or something. I don't know.
yeah, something, I don't know. Anyways, so they store those stem cells for 3 months while they send you to the really bad chemo that completely obliterates your immune system. So the immune system
Mhm.
was 100% gone. So I lived in kind of a bubble
Wow.
area where nobody could come in without washing up a million times. And um, they, and at that point, I really felt like I would rather be dead than be there. And I mean, that's, extreme to
How did
say,
you
but it
retain
was
and maintain
horrible.
hope in that season? Can you recall like what kept you going?
I think just my nature in itself, just that
Mhm.
I've always been somebody that doesn't understand the word no. Like, I'll just do it anyways. And now, after everything I've been through, I'm not as much that way, but I was.
Mhm.
And there's a different
So
Rachel
just
that
like grit
came before.
and
Yeah. Yeah. And just like the fact is, you're there. So, what are you going to do? Like,
yeah.
there was nothing to do. So I'm just in a hospital bed and this is happening. And I'm just hoping it will get better. Just,
So just
I
that
don't know.
hope that maybe just maybe this thing will work and I won't have to
Yeah,
feel
that bad anymore.
okay. So now you're in the really bad chemo part. How long does that
Mm-hmm.
last? How many weeks or months is that?
Like 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then they reintroduce the stem cells to you. And I was allergic to whatever they had kept the stem cells
Jeez.
in. So I passed out. And my mom thought I was dead. And they were like
Oh
running me out
gosh.
to this place and that. And I remember she tells a story that she's running after the gurney for as long as she could. And then, like, no, you can't come into this room. So, and then she's in the waiting room, not knowing what was happening. And my husband was
Nervous.
calling her, and she didn't answer the phone because she didn't know what to tell him. Like, she's passed
Mm,
out, and there's
wow.
no sign that she's there at all. And so, but then I came out of it after it was only like 4 hours, and when I came out of it, I couldn't speak at all. Like, just gibberish was coming out of my mouth, and so
Do you remember that or you just know from people telling you that's what happened?
no, I remember that. And it was
Okay.
so
Do you
frustrating
remember
because
knowing you couldn't speak? Okay. Yeah.
no, I thought I was speaking. I thought it was making sense. So then I just got told
Okay.
later that it wasn't
Wow.
making any sense. And that only lasted for like not more than a day. But then
Mhm.
I couldn't do math at all either. I remember my dad asking me, like, what's 5 times 8. And I'm just like, I don't know, 91 or something. Like, don't ask me these questions. It's just so frustrating to not be
Right.
able to think. It was like letters and numbers were running around in my head, but I couldn't put them together. You know what I mean? Like, just they were separate things that I couldn't put together to make any sense. So it was a very frustrating and scary time. Like, with everything else, I didn't know it was going to end or if it would end, you know?
Right.
So,
Well,
but
yeah, and we still
obviously,
don't know if this treatment is effective or not at this point, it sounds like. It sounds like it's
right.
like we're still which way is this gonna
Yeah,
go?
it had really good odds, but it was so rudimentary in the testing of it. There was no guarantee. So, but it obviously worked.
Yeah. So here you and then recovery, you had to stay up in Seattle a little longer. Is that
Yeah, for a few months because you had to be really close to the hospital in case something happened.
Mhm.
So I had to stay up there for, I think the total time I went up there was less than 4 months.
Okay. So up
Um,
there for 4 months away from the kids and then what do you
mhm.
remember about coming home?
I remember being scared that things would be awkward or different somehow. I was scared how they would react, but it was all great. I arrived in hugs and slept with them that night, like all of us together in one bed, and it was
Aw.
a very joyous time.
And how are you feeling in this season? Like are you if, right now how you are is 100 and the worst was 0, where are you upon coming home from Seattle roughly?
100% grateful, I was still recovering for up to 8 years after that, like not being fully, because you have to recover from the chemo and all of
Yeah.
that. So it took like 8 years until I felt like, okay, this is me now. And there's still some things I will never get back. Like I get confused sometimes and I can't do simple paperwork and stuff, but I have a husband for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well,
so, but this is me now, and I am grateful every time I can run. And sometimes I think like, oh, running's too hard, and I never go over 2 miles now. But I enjoy getting out there and doing it. And sometimes I think like, why is it so hard? And I'm like, oh yeah, I can run. Like there was a time I couldn't even walk. So
right.
I'm grateful for every
And you've
day.
gotten back to running some
Mm-hmm.
5Ks and around the neighborhood and
Yeah.
you and your family travel quite extensively. Where have
We
you been
travel a
recently that's really
lot.
exciting?
Japan was the most recent big trip, and then we have Ireland coming up in July.
That's so
So
exciting.
yeah.
And one thing I want to say, I want you to talk a little bit more about your book because for me, your book is a story of resilience. It's a story of hope. It's a story of being relentless, relentlessly fighting, relentlessly searching,
Exactly.
advocating, and also the people around you supporting you to do that even when you couldn't. So tell us just a little bit about your book. Everybody should get it. Period. Again, the message is so hopeful, but if you are someone or know someone who is going through a medical challenge in particular, a health challenge in particular,
Hmm.
Rachel's story is so enlightening. There's some process things, but also just some raw emotional things that are beautiful. Again, it's called Enduring the Cure. Tell us about even the process of writing the book, but what you wrote the book for, what you want people to get from the book.
Well, writing the book was really difficult. My brain didn't work great and my memory wasn't great, so again, looking back how crazy I was, I thought when I went in, I'm like, I'm going to write a book about this. And so I had everybody take meticulous notes of day by day what was happening. And so I went back through all these notes and I got my hospital records and went through all of that. And so I just put together a timeline of like my early life, uh, an outline of what I wanted to say, and then this and this and this and this and this. And so I describe my early life and how I got MS and coming down with it and knowing about it in the first 3 chapters, I think. And then I go into the treatment itself, and that's very detailed. And
Hmm.
but I put together this book so first of all, so people would hear about HSCT and that there is a way out
Hmm.
of MS, or there's a way of no further progression. All the brain damage is already done, obviously, but it's not going to progress any
What's
further.
done is done, but it's not going to
Yes,
get worse.
yes, and I've obviously gotten better too.
And
So,
you don't have the boiling oil
no, I have no pain anymore.
anymore. Praise the Lord.
I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes when I get really tired or sick, then I will feel remnants of it, but it's never that bad again.
Yeah.
And
Thank God.
so I go through the whole story, and it's a happy ending.
It's such a happy ending. Again, it's called Enduring the Cure by
My
Rachel
MS
Carter.
turning to the
Right,
brink of death and back.
with gorgeous art by her
Yes,
mother, Margaret Godfrey, who's an incredible artist in her own right.
yes. In
And
fact, she
where
did that
can
painting.
people? I love it. Yes, I love all your moms. Your moms are so. Where can people find you, Rachel, and where can people find the book?
Okay, there's 2 places they can find the book. I don't know if you can type this in afterwards, but they can email me directly and they can get a signed copy of it, or it's
Okay.
available on Amazon.
Yep. And just I will put your email in the show notes. But what is your email, real quick?
RachelPCarter@gmail.com.
Excellent. And then obviously you can just search her name and during the cure and it'll come up in Amazon as well. But if you want a signed
Mhm.
copy, which I highly recommend, Rachel, your story is one of hopefulness and relentlessness, and you are such a gift to people. I mean, honestly, anybody who knows Rachel, she's just an incredible light, but
Oh,
also
you're
an
too
inspiration
kind.
to people who've had to struggle through medical challenges and health challenges and still find a way to show up in spite of pain and loss of energy and loss of physical mobility. Rachel just keeps showing up. So thank you, Rachel, so much for joining today. And folks, get that book. You won't regret it.
Thank you for listening to Relentless Pursuit with Marjorie Dudley. If you want to build discipline, resilience, and results in your own work, that's what I help leaders and entrepreneurs do through coaching, speaking, and training. If today's conversation got you thinking about how you'd like to show up, you can find me through the links in the show notes. Until next time, stay relentless.